What's up, Hoth heads? It's that time of year again, and the Kessel Toy Run is in full swing. Going on now through December 18th, you can join the force and donate a toy to a hospitalized child who won't be able to make it home for the holidays. You can find out how to donate in the details for this episode on makingstarwars.net or by emailing thekesseltoyrun@gmail.com. Thanks, and may the force be with you. Welcome, everybody, to another episode of Hoth Topics, a podcast about Star Wars. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, John.
Hello there.
And a returning guest, Jason. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. Thank you for having me back. I was a little bit annoyed last week because you had roommate Mike back on. And I think, is he the first returning guest?
I think so.
First returning guest. Yeah, probably. He's been kind of a semi-regular returning person.
Yeah. And I thought it was going to be me. Then he beat me.
He lives slightly closer than you do.
I know.
He's about 4 feet away from where my computer is.
Okay. I mean,
not at the moment.
I'll accept that as a reason. Yeah.
For now.
For now. Well, tell us, how have you been since the last time we talked? Any big news?
So I think I was on 11 months ago. I know that because I've just gone through the back catalogue to see when I was on. So yeah, I retired from podcasting for a while. So it's interesting to be back. This is the first one I've done on somebody else's podcast for quite a while. I retired because of another addition to the family. It was hard enough to podcast when we had one child, and I had to say, sorry, I'm going into the other room for 2 hours for no real reason. But once we had another baby, it made it slightly more difficult. So that's kind of the big news. So I don't know if anything's happened in the Star Wars world because, I've been changing nappies or diapers, as you'd say.
Well, congratulations on your new youngling.
Definitely.
Thank you. I mean, she's 50 years old, but she looks like a baby. Apart from that, I'm podcasting again, which is, why I'm back, guys.
Yeah.
That was due to a phone call from somebody else asking me to do a podcast for them. So that's sort of...
The bug bit you again, huh?
Yeah, well, I like doing it. I've always enjoyed doing podcasts, but it was just sort of justifying them. It's the problem.
Right.
So the owner of the gym I go to just asked if I could do one for the gym, and it's been working out pretty well. So people there seem to enjoy it, and I can see that we have listeners from all over the world. So clearly, not just people that are at the gym are listening to it. So that's pretty good.
That's rad, man. Yeah, if only we can get people from all over the world to listen to our podcast.
At least one.
At least one.
Why? Where's Tim from?
He's
that's a complicated question.
Yeah. Well, so you've had a new addition to the family and been working on podcast stuff. We have been behind on our own Star Warsiness, so I think collectively we've all been trying to catch up on the most recent Star Wars news and what's-its and programs that have been out. We might be in the same boat in terms of how much we've missed and how much we're trying to catch up on. Is there anything that's been going on lately that you have been intrigued by in terms of maybe some snippets of news or new stuff that you've maybe seen coming out so far?
I mean, I suppose the issue we have here is obviously not having Disney Plus yet. That's
right.
That's we're waiting for that in March. I think it's coming the end of March. So I don't know what's going to be on. I haven't really looked into if when it launches in the UK, if it's going to have everything it has where you guys are, or if it's going to launch and yet there are still certain contracts that need to be kind of finished and expire, right, so that we can because it's kind of a two-edged sword here in the UK, because we'll get stuff on Netflix and on Amazon that you would have divided across 5 or 6 different streaming services.
Mm-hmm.
So that's quite good in that with kind of 1 or 2 you catch a load more things. But it's also, if you want something specific, whereas in the US it might be on this streaming service, here it might be like one of it's on Netflix and another is on Amazon, for example. So you might need to divide it up that way. I mean, thinking for all of you Star Wars fans out there, if you want to watch Star Trek, I think like Discovery's on Netflix, but the new Picard series will be on Amazon Prime. I imagine they'd both be on CBS in the US. But so I don't know when Disney Plus launches what might still be on Netflix or on Amazon or somewhere else. Or I'm not that good at Googling, really.
Right. Has it been hard for you to kind of stay away from Mandalorian sort of news and spoilers? Because even though it's coming out here and we can see it, I still haven't watched the third episode yet. I'm gonna do it later with my dad. But I've had to avoid reading stuff online, and even the titles of YouTube videos have been a pain in the butt. I've been playing Fallen Order right now. I've already had a big encounter spoiled for me because it was just the thumbnail in a YouTube video. Has it been hard for you to kind of stay away from that, or not really trying, or what's your modus operandi?
I mean, it's inevitable, isn't it? You're going to see it. I mean, for example, like you could say, okay, I'm going to stay away from Star Wars. And I won't come across this, but then I wouldn't have listened to your last episode, so I can't do that. You need the downloads. But I mean, like an account I follow called Make What's Great Again, and it's a CrossFit memes account. Mm-hmm. But even he is using images from The Mandalorian in these memes.
Oh no!
So, like you'd see it even in a completely unrelated thing. People are gonna, I mean, I think, and if you go along with the kind of it's inevitable, I know I'm gonna see it, then don't worry about it. Just say, okay, I'll be spoiled, and then I'll just watch it at the end, sort of knowing. I don't really care that much about spoilers, to be honest.
That's fair.
Do you know what it is? I think it's spending like the last 10 years with my wife asking me, who's that? What's gonna happen? Why did he do that? You just get used to having to try and anticipate everything. And if you already know the answer, it just makes life easier. So, who's that guy? Why did he go in there? Well, actually, what they don't know is he's a spy, and he's going to betray them. So it just makes my viewing easier on that side of things, I suppose. But
that's really interesting. John, you kind of have a complicated history, complicated like view of spoilers. Sometimes you're all for them, sometimes not so much. How do you balance that in terms of the modern day and like keeping up with Star Wars stuff as well?
Really depends on what the medium of the spoilers is coming from. Like with The Mandalorian, I don't want to watch spoilers or see any spoilers, which makes being on Twitter very difficult on the days that Mandalorian comes out, because the Twitter account that I use mostly is the Hoth Topics one, which is only Star Wars, following Star Wars related people. So it's very hard to not just instinctually load it up and then see a whole bunch of stuff out of context.
Right.
Which has been the struggle the last couple days. But for some reason, like both books or comics, spoilers in those don't really bother me as much. I think mostly because I know that I'm probably never going to get around to reading those things.
Right. So you just kind of let other people like me and Tim kind of read them for you and then
exactly
tell you what's going on. My brain, I don't really enjoy spoilers unless I'm in the same vein as you, John, where it's like I know I'm not going to see it or watch it, so I don't really mind. My dad, who we have a very one of the things that we share in common is we really like going to the movies. We really enjoy watching the newest sci-fi stuff, and it's always interesting to me because he doesn't care about spoilers at all. Like he'll go and read it on the internet like on purpose, and then he'll be like, "Hey, did you hear about the thing in the movie that we're going to go see today?" I'm like, "No, because we're going to go watch it. Why would I read ahead?" And then he'll lean over during the movie and just be like, "Hey, I knew that part was going to happen." I don't understand that at all. Maybe it's a dad thing. Jason, can you confirm?
It may be a dad thing. You know what it is? Probably he's not telling you this, but he's checking that it's, okay for you to watch. He's sort of making sure, because that's what I have to do with my son. So it's probably this. I mean, he's 6, but it's probably the same thing that I'm checking ahead. Like, is it okay? It's going to be appropriate for him. He's probably still doing that for you. He's just making sure you're not going to get scared.
Sure, of course. 6 years old, 28 years old. It's the same,
it's
really.
It's almost the same. I mean, I kind of wonder sometimes because we were going to get there eventually, weren't we? Like the mystery box side of things, okay, which I've probably been on record. I think, on any podcast I've ever been on, saying I do not like this sort of just mystery for the sake of mystery. And
Sure.
I kind of wonder if the reason we get so sensitive about spoilers now is because you need this, you need that surprise. Otherwise, the movie maybe doesn't stand up. Whereas if maybe a movie was, and this isn't necessarily, Star Wars in itself, but in general, that perhaps, a good movie that's really a good movie, you're going to enjoy, even if a twist is spoiled, or there's something's
Right.
been revealed, because it doesn't matter. Watching it was still so entertaining or so good, so enjoyable. Whereas maybe a movie that was not bad, but not, going to blow you away without some secret reveal at the end, perhaps it leans too heavily on that, and that's why when there's a spoiler, it kind of ruins the movie, because perhaps that was a little bit too fundamental.
That's a fair point. That's a really fair point. And I feel like with Star Wars in particular, I've said this in a couple previous episodes, one of my biggest concerns with the new movie coming out in December is that J.J. Abrams has never really ended anything. Like, he sets up a great mystery box in a world, but then it's, because of that intense mystery setup, everybody kind of gets really deep into what the mystery is. And then it turns out that it's not what you think or thought or wanted it to be. And then it doesn't really work for everybody. And that sort of thing. Yeah, I think it's in the same vein where we might be relying too heavily on the unknown in film.
And I think, you're saying JJ sets up a good mystery. I kind of don't even feel like he does. I just think he wants there to be a mystery, and then he just doesn't give you information.
Sure.
And I feel like that's different from if you had like a lot of information, but there's still a mystery. You're kind of like, oh, I've seen this person. We've seen some clues about them. We have, 50% of the information we need to identify the person, but the 50% we're missing, it's so vital that we can't work out who it is. Like, that's quite a good mystery. But when you have 0% of the information, of course, then everyone can speculate. It could be this person, it can be that. And then you're given 2 years to come up with the best idea possible. No budget, it doesn't matter. You could do anything. And then the reveal is like, oh, okay, well, that wasn't as good as what I had been thinking about for 2 years.
Somebody just went in front of my window with a leaf blower. I'm going to go put a stop to that real quick. Give me a second. I agree with what you're saying, and
It's
I have
JJ.
a point. Give me a minute. Be right back.
JJ heard him talking. He's come over to sabotage the podcast.
Yeah. He heard me bad-mouthing him on Thursday, and he knows. Well, it's okay.
Okay.
Did you steal that leaf blower? Because I heard something very loud.
No, I just started being like, I'm podcasting here. Stay away from my window.
And then you spent 20 minutes explaining what a podcast is.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes you do have to do that. So, the mystery box thing and JJ not really setting them up well. I agree with that in the sense that I think that he sets up mysteries for mystery's sake, but he doesn't have an end game. So he doesn't have all the details himself about what the end is going to be. So he can't give us that information. So I guess what I'm saying is I like some of his world building rather than his mysteries.
Yeah, but then I feel like that. I think you're right that he doesn't know what the end is going to be. And I feel that is basically painting yourself into a corner, isn't it?
Yeah.
He sets up all of these things, and then he finds himself in a situation where you're like, oh, I guess it can only be this. And you're like, well, that's disappointing. That's not what I wanted. And I just feel as well, because you're looking for it. And I always go back to, apart from, John and myself, who obviously watched Star Wars in the correct order, that is Jedi, Empire, Star Wars, but everybody else... Everybody else would have been like, okay, I've gone and seen Star Wars. Yeah, it's a good movie. It's a shame about Anakin Skywalker that, Darth Vader killed him. That's disappointing, but, Luke will get his revenge. And then the reveal that Darth Vader is his father is like, whoa, that's how can that be? Because it's from a certain point of view. Obviously, that makes perfect sense. But nobody went into Empire wondering who was Darth Vader, or who was Luke's father. We know, Darth Vader's a bad guy, and Luke's father was killed by him. That's simple. So when you get that reveal, that hits you. But if everyone had gone into it like, who is his father? Who could it be? Oh, it's Darth Vader. Oh, that's a bit obvious, really, isn't it? I mean, it's the only other Jedi. It's sort of like, it's kind of, I don't think it would have hit you the same way if you'd gone in anticipating a reveal.
Absolutely. That is a fantastic point, and I completely agree with you. John, what do you think?
Because we saw the Star Wars, like you said, in the correct order, the surprises that everyone else had were kind of already known to me. Kind of going back to what Jason was touching on earlier, into the regards to how mysteries are used in like modern cinema, and how like JJ, some other directors or writers will have that mystery for the sake of mystery. Where I'm thinking of like older movies, like I'll say like Memento, where there's a mystery throughout the whole thing, and when you find out what the mystery or the resolution of that mystery is, it changes your perspective on every viewing after that.
Right.
And a lot of things that I see today that have a mystery setup, they don't have that same kind of payoff on more viewings.
Yeah. If anything, when you watch it back, it's kind of like, oh yeah, it's either you watch it back and you're like, oh, that's obvious, yeah, of course, or you watch it back kind of like, well, hold on, if that's the solution, then why was this person speaking as if they didn't have the information and they're like alone in the room, so there's no reason they'd be hiding this. Like, you watch it back and you kind of say, well, you misled us really in a way that just wouldn't happen. Like, this person wouldn't be keeping up a pretense when they are alone and no one is around, but they are, because you're trying to trick us. Whereas, as you said, with something like Memento, you'll go back and you'd be like, oh wow, yeah, now I understand this, and now this makes sense, and now I'm watching, and you just get to watch kind of almost a different movie.
Exactly.
Yeah. I wonder how much marketing comes into play with this sort of mentality, because if you watch any trailer for a film or whatever, they want to grab you. They want to say, this is why you should come in, because you'll find out X answer or Y answer. But then you're kind of maybe that's what studios are looking for, in terms of like, oh, we need something big and tantalizing so that people come in, and they're just not doing it right anymore. For example, I remember there's some movie coming out, some like horror movie. I think it's called Black Christmas or something. A bunch of sorority sisters fight off some serial killer like people, but the marketing for it kind of gives away the whole story and the mystery behind it. So even like, what's the point? And at the same time, you've got them trying to be tantalizing and be like, ooh, what's the deeper meaning? So I wonder if there's just like a fundamental disconnect between what producers think audiences want in terms of a mystery or a setup, and what we actually want to see.
Maybe. I mean,
yeah. That was a lot of film nonsense. I just vomited all over you guys.
But what kind of film? If it's a mystery, like the genre is mystery and suspense and thriller or something like that, it kind of makes sense. But
sure,
if you go back to you've just heard they're going to make a new Star Wars trilogy. We've been waiting for this for so long. I can't believe it. It's going to be a new trilogy. It's under Disney, so it's going to be big budget. And they just say, okay, these are the new characters. This is Rey, and they just say, oh, she's the the granddaughter of Obi-Wan Kenobi. That it turns out that something had happened in the past that he hadn't told anyone about, and she'd been sort of raised in secret. She doesn't know that's her. Like, if all that information was laid out, and it's just, and they're going to go up against the First Order that are kind of trying to rebuild the Empire, you'd have gone and seen that.
Yeah, that's true.
You wouldn't have been like, oh, you told us who she was. If anything, you'd have gone for the sake of seeing this character who had an attachment to a character that you had an attachment to, and it would have added to it. I don't believe that people would have said, oh, I can't believe you spoiled who her parents were.
Fair. Absolutely fair. Also, he played the Obi-Wan card. That's a real good way to get me to agree with pretty much anything. No, I agree with that. Absolutely. But, it is what it is, and hopefully we're going to get some closure coming into this last film. It's something that I am concerned about, but I'm still cautiously optimistic.
Yeah, I mean, it's so close now. It's almost at the point where let's just, there's no need to speculate anymore. It's like, okay, it's you might as well just wait. It's here. It's around the corner. We'll watch it. We'll all go, yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was bad. Or most likely, it was fine.
Right.
That's probably how we're going to end, that it was fine. And then we'll have the two extremes that we'll go to war. And we'll, spend the next couple of years listening to all the people that loved it, tell all the people that hated it why it was good, and all the people that hated it telling them why it was terrible, overreacting, all the things we've seen multiple times.
Yep. Not just with the Last Jedi stuff, but also, throughout prequels and all that.
Exactly. And I mean, and then probably if we had the tools available back when Empire and Jedi came out that we have now, probably people would have done similar things. Unhappy with, that's terrible saying Darth Vader was his father. No, I don't like that. Whatever. It's fine. I remember listening to, so I took notes. Episode 22 of Hoth Topics. Tim might have to do some fact checking on some of the numbers I'm going to drop about. Episode 22, you guys had your brief long chat about The Last Jedi and your sort of misgivings of how it's almost leaves a bad taste in your mouth because of the sort of do I like it more than I should because I'm defending it, or do I not like it because people are influencing me, that kind of way.
Right.
I appreciate that Tim did the maths, because I was mentioned in that episode about my my theory on who actually pays for Star Wars, and it's just the general public that don't really care. And appreciate that Tim followed through on doing the maths to work that out for me. But seeing as I don't want to speculate about the new movie, I have some other speculation stuff. Not really speculation, more just like where would you like things to go, or how would you use certain things? Or if you want, I can also just ask about one thing that really bugs me about Star Wars.
Let's do both. We got time.
So these are all. So the reason I was saying that Tim has to fact check when these episodes were mentioned is because I work outside a lot. And I just listen to podcasts while I'm out. So I don't have a pen and paper on me, maybe, and I can't write things down. And then I'm like, oh, I remember this. And then I get home and it's sort of 5 hours later. I've forgotten everything. But I do remember, last episode, roommate Mike, he was talking about IG-11 and that he felt he was too capable for a Star Wars droid. Okay. Yeah. What is going on with the droids in Star Wars? I can't handle this.
How do you mean?
I mean, okay, it's my one problem. To be honest, I think I only have one problem with The Last Jedi. Probably not. It was fine, but the whole sacrifice, crashing the ship. And there were a lot of people that were like, oh, why did she do it? Leia could have done it, and that could have been, a good send-off for Carrie Fisher kind of thing. And I'm just like, you had droids. You're telling me C-3PO, the most annoying character in Star Wars, on par, if not more annoying than Jar Jar Binks, he could not pilot that ship. I just...
Well, of course not, because when you're the good guys, droids are just as sentient people as you, and so sending a droid to sacrifice themselves would be the same as sending anyone else to sacrifice themselves that's a biological being. So the only logical thing is to sacrifice yourself, because that's more heroic.
You're telling me they haven't backed him up to the cloud? I refuse to believe that. Because I'm just wondering, I mean, if not C-3PO, can you not have the number? I mean, have they never watched a sci-fi show where we'll put it on autopilot? The autopilot doesn't work. Classic. Can you not just build a simple droid that can just fly in a straight line? And you're like, autopilot doesn't work. Don't worry, let's get the straight line droid. We just put him there. It is basically putting a brick on the accelerator. That's
yeah. Just tape the throttle forward.
Can we not do that? I just don't get it.
Yeah. Honestly, like I get what you're both saying. I don't have a good argument either way. It's just one of those things we gotta deal with. I think it's because, the droids themselves end up being, characters with personalities, and, they don't want to do that. And I guess I'm saying that Holdo had no personality. Oof, wow. Reading into that one.
Save that clip.
Yeah, I honestly, I didn't really have, I didn't care too much about Admiral Holdo as a character. That doesn't mean to say I have anything against the person playing the character or the character themselves. Just I didn't really see the point of that. It was a cool scene though.
Yeah, but you see,
it's a cool scene.
That's how I feel about every scene with C-3PO. Why is he there?
Okay, so what does C-3PO have to do to earn your respect in the next movie? Just
see, it's interesting that you say that, isn't it? Because clearly he does something. If the trailers are telling us he's going to do something,
right?
I mean, I don't know. He just what's he done up until now? He's had like 6 movies. He's had more chances than anyone, and he's just done nothing.
He shot at some Jedis in Attack of the Clones.
Well, that's true. I mean, that's probably the most action he's had, isn't it? That's really... They should have kept him like that.
Very confusingly, he seemed to have his own sentience while he was on the battle droid's head, while the battle droid's body also had sentience and was targeting Jedi. So you could add that to your droids don't make any sense to Star Wars.
Well, probably the battle droid was... Well, hold on. You're saying they don't have cloud technology, but yet when the ship was destroyed, they
totally did, yeah. No, yeah, you're right.
Well, is Wi-Fi the same as the cloud, though? Like,
well, I mean,
if you've got a broadcast tower going on, and then that broadcast tower gets taken down, that's different from a backup system, right?
No, I suppose, but it means their consciousness must have been stored off-site, doesn't it?
That's fair.
And I mean, surely, it would be great. Maybe one day they'll find the C-3PO original files and be like, oh, yeah, I did know your dad was Darth Vader all along. He built me. And every time I've been saying thank the maker, what I really mean is let's go Darth Vader. He's
Darth Vader's the biggest fan.
Oh, that's deep cut right there. That's like, I didn't even think of that. Every single time he says praise the maker. Just, that's amazing. It's going to change the way I look at those movies now.
You see, when you reveal a mystery, you can go back, rewatch the movie, and it will add something. And that's, I feel like we've accomplished that.
Yep, I can't argue with that at all. Wow.
Now, anyway, I quite liked, what was it, K2SO? Is that the one?
Yeah, K2SO.
Yeah, I enjoyed him. He had, he had a little bit of backbone, which was nice.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like he's the anti-C-3PO, so that's probably why I liked him.
That's fair.
He was a good character. So it's not that I hate all droids. I find R2-D2 overrated. And
there are a couple things though. If you kind of look at, if you're paying attention to him in the background of things, he's like tripping droids and lighting stuff on fire, and so. But it's really it's subtle to the point of not being able to notice it.
No, but you see that I think that's what annoys me about him. I think it's that. I think if he just did his job, I wouldn't have as big a problem of him sort of always being like always doing something. It's like already he can hack the computer, he can fix the ship, he can do a lot. So he's useful.
Sure.
But he's just sort of he tries too hard. That's what it is.
He's a try-hard.
Yeah.
Try-hard droid.
And I think was it the last episode when you were talking about where he came from?
Yeah.
And the fact that it was just a random droid on on the Queen's ship. Or the princess ship. Queen Amidala. Was it
Yeah,
Queen?
the Queen's
Yeah,
Queen's
Queen.
ship. Yeah.
And like, I mean, they all go out there. I mean, they're like, what, 7 droids or something that were all on the end, outside the ship trying to fix it, and they just all got shot apart from him. So already, I mean, unless you're telling me he's got the Force, I'm struggling.
Yeah, he's just, you know what? He's in it for the fame. That's all. He's just he wants all the credit and the accommodations. So he's a tryhard.
Yeah. What I'd really like is if in the next movie he does sort of a little projector and he's got a little message from the Emperor, and it's him. It's been R2 all along, and it would make perfect sense. He's been the inside man.
Wait. He's you want a reveal where the out of nowhere with no mystery setup that R2 has been a secret agent for the Emperor all along.
Yes.
Okay.
I can get behind this.
Of course you can.
He's obviously been he was telling him what Anakin was doing. He was letting him know kind of what was happening between him and Padme and sort of helping him push that along. It would make sense.
See, that's the kind of mystery reveal that makes all the other viewings or subsequent viewings of the movies drastically different. Because you can see how R2-D2 has slowly influenced the entire saga.
I can't decide if that's the most brilliant thing I've ever heard or the stupidest thing I've ever heard.
Can it not be both?
Yeah.
Yeah,
two things can be real.
Good times. Yeah, I'm looking over at the case of models I have here, and R2's like there, and I'm looking at all these like sort of heroic level droids, and then there's just R5, the one who blew his motivator at the beginning of A New Hope. And why does he have a minute? Why is he important? He's the everyman. He's the forgotten droid. He's the one who's not in the spotlight, doing his job, being bad at being a droid. Remember R5.
In Legends, wasn't he Force sensitive?
Yes.
Oh,
he
God.
was, and he blew his motivator so that R2 and C-3PO would be reunited.
Yeah,
like on purpose. Yeah.
I know I've heard this.
That's before. In that Star Wars role playing from Weston Games supplement I gave you, Ian.
Yeah, I think that my body just rejected the information so much that I totally forgot it happened until y'all brought it up.
Well, don't forget, IG-88 was in control of the Death Star 2 for a few brief moments before it blew up.
And suddenly, the idea that R2 has been behind all of this from the beginning is not sounding so far-fetched, is it?
Droid revolution.
Oh, boy. If it's a droid revolution, then R2 got his ideas from plugging into the Falcon and then having a conversation with L3.
Yeah, I mean, again, that you see, it's all set up. It's there, isn't it? You go back, you rewatch Solo. Suddenly, everybody loves Solo because they're like, "Oh, that movie was amazing! It set up this massive thing. It changed Star Wars forever. We were so wrong to hate it."
See, now I need some sticky notes. I need a whiteboard. I need some pens. I need some string. We're gonna get to the bottom of all of it. All of it. What does it mean?
Would you like me to change topic drastically now?
Well, Jason came on the show and drastically broke Ian, so moving on.
So, Ian.
Oh, boy. Let's break him again.
So you, as a throwaway line in one episode, said you were having less of a problem with Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, I am.
Now, this got me thinking, and as I told you, I listen while I'm working, and then I'm working, and my mind is it's very physical what I do, and it's not so mental, so I can kind of just ponder a lot. And I was just thinking how there are probably characters. I mean, there are characters and everything, aren't there? But characters that you kind of don't like or annoy you for a certain reason. But I'm just wondering how you could use that to progress a franchise. Okay. So I'm thinking, like, how could you take someone like Jar Jar Binks that was, almost universally hated, even by people that were like, "Oh, I did like the prequels, but not Jar Jar Binks." It's sort of a caveat thrown in there.
Right.
Or even if they liked the character, you cannot deny how annoying he was at times and all the stupid things he did. Do you know what I mean? So even if you're like, "Oh no, hey, he was fun," but yeah, of course he was that kind of a character who played a certain way.
Right.
So what I would like, this is my idea, is that you basically would have like a nephew or a relative, okay, of Jar Jar Binks who was so annoyed by what he did and how, because I mean, again, we meet him when he's been exiled from the Gungans because he is like
clumsy.
so clumsy, causing. So even they were like, "This is too much." And
Not
then
this
he goes
guy.
on to become like a senator, and
Right.
so that is like taking the worst person from your species and be like, "You're the one that will represent us." So when people think about us, it's you. Okay.
But Jason, you're forgetting another key part of his character development there. After he became a senator, he was the one that put forth the motion to give Palpatine unlimited power.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So what I would like is that we have some relative of his that, because of this and because of just basically the way the galaxy views his race and these people, because of Jar Jar, he goes full dark side, and he becomes like some super powerful Sith based on the kind of just the hatred he has for his uncle and for everything he's done.
See, I can get behind that.
Well, I think it's a way, that we accept. Okay, this character was a certain way, but look, because of that, you get this great new character, and then we'll forgive Jar Jar because he gave us Darth, whatever his name is.
Right.
And you're good with names. Pick a name for our Gungan.
Well, let's see. Darth names are always like, they've got that George Lucas-esque, it's just like take a negative sounding word and switch around the letters a little bit. So let's see, what would be a negative sounding word? Oh, okay. So yeah, his uncle was all clumsy, right? And that's why he hates him. So just like Darth Clutzus or something.
Okay, I mean, we can work on a name. That's fine.
Yeah, Admiral Bone to pick.
Oh, I love Admiral Bone to pick.
There's a guy in there. There's a character in Clone Wars whose name is Savage Opress. Okay, Savage Opress. I am perfectly within the lines of Star Wars naming convention here.
But
but I could totally get behind that because I like it way better than the Darth Jar Jar theory that everybody keeps floating around. Like, and even if he's not like force sensitive or whatever, like you can imagine like maybe like a Gungan like pirate lord or something that just goes around, or like a warlord that conquers planets because he just hates his uncle and like the perceived, like, oh, all Gungans are weak and clumsy. And it's like, well, I'll show you weak and clumsy. I own your planet now. No, I could absolutely get behind that. This sounds like a D&D game. Like I'd be for it.
See, I'd be interested in seeing if there are other Gungan civilizations on Naboo. Like, what if the Naboo are the Gungans we saw were like the backwards hill people of the Gungan society, and so we go to the other side of the planet, and they're just as my brain stopped working there. All right, we go to the other side of the planet, and we find that there are Gungans that are just as prim and posh as the Naboo, and they look down on their simple cousins, and the whole galaxy has this view as Gungans as being simple-minded folk, when in all actuality that's just like a minority of their population, and the rest are just normal, regular
aliens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because is it ever explained? I mean, you guys might know. I don't know. Is it ever explained why Boss Nass doesn't look like any of the rest of them.
I'm gonna go with crackers and Oreos.
Isn't he green and everyone else is like a kind of salmon
color? Yeah, he's a little green.
So I feel like, again, that's something, isn't it? Isn't it odd that, this guy who's leading the people, maybe we find out that he's from another race, that actually he's sort of just put himself there. As we know, all water planets have multiple races living there that are warring with each other. That's a fact.
All three of them.
Yeah. So maybe I think John's onto something. I think there is another civilization who are manipulating things.
Yeah, it's like the Nemodians and Duros are similar, from the same species, or the Romulans and Vulcans if you're a Star Trek person.
Yes.
They're very similar, but very different. I've been throwing as many Star Trek references into our episodes as possible now, just to annoy Ian.
I have been enjoying them.
See, Ian, there's an audience.
It doesn't so much annoy me as it just makes me be like, okay, now I have to watch it now. So, and that's a Herculean task.
Yeah, but I think the Romulan Vulcan thing, that's a great idea. You've got the one that embraced logic and common sense, and then you have the Gungans.
Yeah, then you have the warrior species that powers their ships with black holes. It's not very smart.
Yeah. Again, like, no fuel source is safe.
Well, that's true.
Solar power.
And they probably, you just fly past the sun, you charge it up, and then off you go.
I'm just gonna lose this podcast, aren't I?
Yes.
The one where Ian loses. No, so but I can totally get behind the my brain also shut off. I can totally get behind the successor of Jar Jar being an interesting character because of the actions of Jar Jar. I'm fine with that. I'm for it.
Well, I'm glad. So I suppose at this point I ask, did Disney ever contact you when you were asking for money and giving them ideas?
Not yet. These things are probably, very official and just waiting for, they probably need to send a packet or something.
Yeah, in fact, Ian just violated the NDA we signed with Disney, so we're probably not going to see any of that money now.
No. I didn't violate anything. I said allegedly.
Oh, okay, then we're good. Then he allegedly violated the non-disclosure agreement.
Allegedly.
And what I appreciate is your commitment to, the fact and truthful podcasting, and the fact that you could edit this and remove anything he said that would cost you the millions of dollars that Disney were offering. Yet Correct. You chose to keep it in, to lose that, because your integrity to telling the truth.
Yeah, we hope that they see what we're bringing to the table here.
You want it to be like that one with like, oh, because you were honest, you get to keep the thing anyway.
Yes.
Yeah,
that's how corporations work, right?
Well, that's movies. That's what all of Disney's movies have taught me. If I'm just a good person, then everything will go my way. Or you fly into you can't get a droid to fly your starship, so you die.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna veer it slightly off course again. So that's one idea I had. Just a sort of general, how could you, and I suppose you could do it with other characters that people kind of have issue with, or for whatever reason. And sure. Another thing I was thinking, I just kind of wondered, because we know that more Star Wars is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, we don't really know, like, apart from things like the Obi-Wan series and stuff like that, we kind of don't know what the movie side of things will look like.
Right.
And I feel like if they were to sort of follow a little bit like the Marvel pattern in the way that they all link together,
mm-hmm.
but they're not telling one story. Like, there's elements that link, and then you could have a final story, but you've followed different movies that have had different characters that will then all combine in the end.
Sure.
So I'm kind of thinking you have some, looming threat that eventually will have to be dealt with, and it's got to be something that is not Empire, related. It's got to be almost like Xenomorph type thing, or Borg kind of something has arrived. It's come. It doesn't care if you're a Jedi, if you're a Sith, if you're part of the Republic or the First Order or whatever. You're fair game, and that way we could have movies that are following. You can get this is the new Jedi Order, this is what they do, this is, the new rules and what they're doing in the galaxy. And then you can have another movie that is just, okay, this is the remnants of the First Order or the new Empire or whatever, and you've got a very kind of more militaristic style movie set in this way. And you just have these different movies, yet somehow this overarching threat kind of reveals itself. And then you get a final movie where you have everyone has to come together to deal with this new problem.
Ian, I'm going to let you take this one.
Yeah, you have just described two separate storylines in the extended universe. They've done that in Star Wars before. So in terms of both the Yuzong Vong crisis, where they were extra galactic creatures who came from beyond the stars and they had weird tech and they just started terraforming planets all over the place and it was a big threat.
Think of like the Borg, but instead of being biological with technological implants, they were organic-based technology from outside the galaxy.
Yeah.
So they did that, and then they also had a storyline where a big sort of like Cthulhu-esque force entity that could take control of people came out, and her name is escaping me at the moment. Eric's gonna be mad at me. It's not Brenda.
Dang it.
Begins with an A. I can't remember it.
Brenda?
Is it Abeloth? I think it's Abeloth. That sounds right.
Is that a D&D monster?
So it doesn't sound made up at all.
Yeah, right. It could be a D&D monster, but I think it's a similar concept. But yeah, just the fact that it exists in that sort of concept exists is a very good sign where that idea could absolutely work, especially with the sort of, it seems like the Marvel people are kind of looking to take the reins on Star Wars a little bit here, with Feige getting involved and Favreau really pushing with the Mandalorian. So yeah, good work.
Because if you think about it, like, I mean, you're saying, yeah, it's been done in the extended, in the extended universe kind of thing, and now what, Legends canon or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But I mean, yeah, of course, because generally that's exactly how books and comics and everything else works, isn't it? It's sort of, it's in universe, but this is a book about this character, and it's not about all these other characters because it's a book. So it's only talking about this character and the people around him. And here's another book, and it's talking about these characters. And sort of that's the way all of that extra material functions, is just telling stories about different people. What I'd like is that we just do that with the movies, and I think you're going to get, I think it even works on a grander scale, because you've got people that are like, I don't want to watch another Jedi movie. I don't care. Mm-hmm. I'm more kind of your classic, sci-fi. I want to see people in space dealing with space problems in a space way, not waving their hands. And then you've got other people that are like, if I want that kind of more realistic sci-fi, I'll watch, The Expanse. I want laser swords and deflecting blasters and things like that. So you've got all your different movies, but you're all going to want to see the conclusion.
Right, the final team up, yeah.
And then even the people that are like, I don't really like the whole, mystic wizard of space thing, but if I'm going to really understand the finale of the movie that I do like, I'm probably going to go and watch that one as well, because I kind of need to know how they're involved and why they're also in trouble, sort of things. I just think it would work.
And then
everyone.
you also have that theory, if you end up going and seeing the movie when you just watch the ones you like, and then you discover a character, it's like, oh, maybe I can really get behind this wiggly finger laser sword guy, because I liked what he did in the team up movie. I'll go back and watch that because I enjoyed that character and I didn't think I would, sort of thing. So yeah, no, I think it would work well. I just think they got to be careful about not overloading, because I think that's kind of where Marvel's at right now. We got Endgame, we got kind of like the big finale to this years-long project, and now it's kind of hard to see where it's gonna how it's gonna go in the future. Just like knowing knowing how to handle that, I think is a something to look out for. But I agree with you. I think it would work very well. I think it would work very, very well.
I think what you could do then as well is like that finale, that kind of big payoff at the end. When you watched, Iron Man, you had no thought about eventually there being Endgame. It was just like, here's a movie that stands on its own, and there's just the subtlest of hints that maybe there's going to be something more.
Sure.
So you could actually just make a number of Star Wars movies that are just different movies. We don't need to have. It's even. I mean, this again goes back to the movie world in general, but it's like everything is a trilogy.
Right. Yeah.
Like every movie is. Oh, and we've signed them on for a trilogy. It's nowhere else in life does someone. So like you don't go. I'm going to go to this restaurant and I'm going to prepay for 3 meals because I'm sure the first one will be so good that I'm definitely going to want to come back 2 more times. You're like, I'll go once, and if I like it, I'll probably go back. Or even if I like it, I might not go back because I might want something different.
Sure.
So make different things. I just, and then if people really love it and they really like it, then they'll be like, hey, let's get another can we get a sequel to this? People will want it, and then you're giving them something they want as opposed to something that they kind of need to get because in the first movie you set up so many mystery boxes that nobody's satisfied.
No, yeah, I can't fault anything in that, John.
I agree with you, Ian. I cannot fault a thing.
Good.
If Ian has lost this episode, I am going away feeling like I have won.
So Disney, if you're listening, we have a plan. It's Jason's plan. Do that plan.
But we're going to take credit for it so that we can get the money, right?
You see, the problem is money, because this is why, I mean, again, if you strip all of these things back, the reason this won't happen is because the actor who got paid the most money for Marvel was Robert Downey Jr. because they only signed him for 1 movie, and then they needed to get him back. And everybody else signed on for multiple films, and so they had them saying, well, we've got you at this price. No matter how big your star becomes, you're signed on for, X number of movies. And that's why when they sign people on, they sign them on for multi-picture deals now.
Right.
Whereas if they sign them on for 1 and then people really want another one, that puts them in a powerful position when they come back to the table to negotiate the next contract. So fiscally, financially, people are not going to, do this. I mean, to be honest with you, the whole movie thing, like the billions of dollars that get spent on movies, really serves no purpose.
Oh, yeah.
It's a whole industry that doesn't actually need to exist. So,
but I must be entertained.
You don't have a hoop that you can push down the road with a stick?
Not since 1872 have I had a hoop that I can push down the road with a stick.
What a shame.
Yep. Used to be a hoop stick champion, but I hung my hoop up. It's aged out.
And if you want to make it Star Warsy, you can just hit the hoop with a stick that you've painted, the end of it green, so it looks like a lightsaber. And you sort of hit it, and then you hide the stick, and you just wave your hand at the hoop. And while it's moving, you're like, going, yeah, I'm doing that with the Force.
See, now you say this as a joke, but I probably legitimately did this as a child.
I mean, I'll be honest, I think we've all been in bed and been like, oh, I forgot to turn the light off. Maybe the Force does work. Let me try before I get out of bed to turn the light off. I'm just going to give it 1 go and see if the Force finally kicks in.
You're not wrong.
No, it hasn't. I guess I'm getting out of bed. So, that happens to all of us.
And who among us haven't waved their hands in front of the automatic doors at the grocery store just to pretend like they're using the force to open them?
If I'd done that today, I would have been very disappointed because I literally went to the store before coming home and the doors wouldn't open.
Oh no!
So I am that weak in the force that even the automatic doors do not work. And I had to, and that's just because they want to close early. And they locked the one doors and I had to go around to the other side to go through the other entrance. I was very disappointed, but I could have imagined myself being like, hey guys, watch this. The force does not work.
That would be soul crushing.
Then I tried to use the force just to wipe everybody's minds who saw me. And that doesn't work. It's just a spiral.
Now we're 0 for 2. Fantastic. Well, I think you've come on with some fantastic ideas, and you successfully broke my brain on the droid thing. So that's kind of a successful episode. Anything else we want to bring up before we close out for the day, gents?
So I have one final question for you.
Let's do it.
This is just a not so much Star Wars related as just a general curiosity on my part. Why do you not have an Instagram?
Why do we not have an Instagram? Good question. John?
Correct.
So what I'm hearing is we should get an Instagram.
I legit think about it all the time when I'm like working on props. Because I don't use my personal Instagram to post anything anymore.
Well, see, this is it. I think, quite often you're talking about, all the San Diego Saber stuff you did.
Mm-hmm.
That would be cool to see something, or all the props you're doing. You talk about like, we went to this convention or this costume. And it's like, that would be great to see. But it's also because a number of times I've seen things and I'd be like, I should tag you guys in this, but you don't have Instagram.
All right. So, I'm hearing we should get an Instagram. And I can't fault that logic either. The consensus has been reached.
I will side with Jason on this, but disagree with Ian.
How?
It's just how it's going to be.
That doesn't make any sense. From no point of view does that make sense. No? Nothing? Okay. Nope. I lose, I guess. Okay. Other than that, any last minute things, gentlemen?
I've crossed everything off my list, I think. I came on with a list. I've gone through it.
Fantastic.
This has been pent up. Every time we've tried to arrange for me to come back on and then something's come up and it's stopped it. It's just sort of
the list gets longer.
The list gets longer. And today I physically wrote it down. So
that's awesome.
It was very lethargic. I feel it was very therapeutic. I feel really, I feel
weight
good.
Has been lifted off your shoulders.
Yeah. I feel like I could pull an X-Wing out of a swamp or, anything like that.
Or open some closed, non-working sliding doors.
I mean, everyone has their limits, don't they? There's only...
Well, it was fantastic having you on again. What upcoming projects do you have going on that our listeners can check out since you have returned to the podcasting era?
So, good question. Well, you can follow my Instagram. That is Jason CFB podcast. So I have the CrossFit Bath podcast. So Bath is the city that I live in. And basically, even if maybe you don't do CrossFit, I kind of have access to all the coaches and athletes and people that go to this gym and the training and experience that they've had. We basically talk about nutrition or sleep. I think I've got an episode I'll be recording soon with a lecturer from the University of Bath about like injury prevention. So it's all very kind of health and fitness topics, but it's not necessarily CrossFit specific. It's just that happens to be the gym I go to. That being said, I think about the time this episode goes up, I'll be posting up an episode with Jacob Heppner, who came sixth at the CrossFit Games the last games, who has a very fun YouTube channel as well, where he's at the moment doing a series called Jacob of All Trades, where he just goes and tries different jobs and activities in his community, which is a lot of fun and raising a lot of money for charities. But he is also a huge Star Wars fan.
That's awesome.
To the point that he talks about things like the Darth Bane trilogy of books and stuff like that. He is not just a kind of, I like the movies. Now, he did say on the podcast we recorded that he felt The Mandalorian was a little slow. So, take that as you will. But
that is fair.
That's that'll probably be the last episode that I've put up since recording this. So that's the CrossFit Bath podcast, which I understand has an odd sounding name if you don't know that Bath is a city in the UK.
Yeah, a little bit, but I'm glad you clarified. Well, that's awesome. It sounds like a great project. And our listeners, if you are going into saber martial arts or anything like that, there is a lot of fitness and nutrition and injuries that happen in that sport. So perhaps they can learn something very valuable from the CrossFit Bath podcast. So
it's funny you should say that, Ian, because I literally have a note on my notes that says, good advice for San Diego Sabres.
There you go. Yeah, we're on the same wavelength now, man.
I was thinking, how can I possibly tie this into Star Wars? Well, this is the only way.
Very, very awesome having you on again, my friend, and let us do it again sooner rather than later. Let's not wait another 11 months, and we'd be happy to have you on once more going into the future, and we can talk about all the little things that get brought up in the great, vast amount of Star Wars content coming soon. So Thank you, Jason, again for coming on.
I do want it. I know that I think you said you're going to have an episode with Mike after you all go and see the new Star Wars movie.
Yep.
But if it is revealed that R2-D2 is the mastermind behind everything, I do feel like I deserve to be on that episode.
Deal. Let's do it.
Now, I feel like you're saying deal with the confidence of a man who really feels that he has nothing to lose on this deal.
See, now you say that, but it's recorded now. And John won't let me live it down either way. So
no, this episode might just get edited down to that deal.
Welcome to Star Wars. Deal. End of episode. Perfect. Well, where can our listeners follow you and your podcast? Where is the CrossFit Bath podcast hosted these days?
Well, probably the easiest way to find it will be to look in the link of this episode, which I'm sure will be included.
Absolutely.
I will make a note.
Yeah. If you just search on iTunes or Spotify or whatever app you're using, CrossFit Bath Podcast, it'll be there. My Instagram is Jason CFB Podcast, or I'm on Twitter as well at jcroxon. And if you followed me on any of the previous podcasts that I did when I was last on, just don't bother, because to be honest, I'm never there.
Fair enough.
A couple of times I've been like, I could restart that. I quite enjoyed that. That would be good to do again. And it hasn't happened. So, yeah.
Well, you've got other responsibilities you're taking care of. That's how the cookie crumbles. Yeah. Well, thank you very much for being on. And thank you, our listeners, for joining us for this episode of Hoth Topics, a podcast about Star Wars. If you want to find out anything more about our podcast, you can go to hothtopicspodcast.com. If you have a suggestion, idea, or question or comment, or maybe just want to just agree with Jason and John more about how I'm wrong, go ahead and send us an email at hothpod@gmail.com, or you can tweet at us on the Twitters at HothPod. We'll provide all those links down below, including links to Jason's podcast. And we will see you all next time. I've been Ian.
I've also been Ian.
And I've beaten Ian.
One of those things is true. That was John, and that was Jason. Thank you very much, everybody. We will see you next time.